Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar Podcast. Today I'm speaking with the owner of Plugg Technologies, and what he does is he connects Latin American talent with US companies. So I'm excited to be rocking out today with Brian Samson. Hey Brian, you ready to rock?
Tim, I am ready to rock.
Awesome. We always start off on a good note. Tell me a story of success that we can all be inspired by.
Yeah, I have grown three different companies from 0 to $4 million in revenue.
Wow.
So that's something I feel pretty good about hanging my hat on.
That's a pretty good one. Yeah, absolutely. Did you see that? Like, was that like a goal that you had, or how did that all come about?
Yeah, I mean, I think I love the ethos of your show because I did not grow up in an entrepreneur family. I waited a long time to become an entrepreneur. I've been one going on 11 years,
Mm.
but that meant like my mid 30s is when I finally, had the courage, gumption, whatever,
Yeah.
insanity to, go out on my own. Uh, and, I kind of did it in a weird way where my, well, I should say I actually did like a kind of a first level entrepreneurship, way back in 2012, where I think this is where most people start. And if they've ever read like the Robert Kiyosaki
Yep.
books, Rich Dad, Poor
Yep.
Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, there's like the four quadrants of, employee, self-employed, business owner, and then investor. So I've kind of been like moving my way, through the Kiyosaki quadrants. But the first step people tend to make is like solopreneur.
Hmm.
The ones we're most common with are, lawyers and doctors. They open their own practice, and they just charge a high hourly rate.
Yeah.
But it's, still their time. So my background came up through recruiting and talent acquisition. So that's what I charged. I would, um, I decided to go independent. I just had a couple of handful of clients and charged for my own time. And and I did it entirely from home. I was in San Francisco. Every once in a while, I'd post up at a hotel lobby, and work or
Hmm.
coffee shop. Um, but you know, I didn't have like a big war chest of funds or anything. I just, hustled and kind of beat the street, got a few clients. And then I think I've kind of learned that entrepreneurship is just a whole bunch of levels. I haven't played video games in a long time, but when I did, it was like, you got to get to the next level of, Super Mario Brothers or something.
Yeah.
So now I think I've kind of made my way, all the way through the different quadrants and mostly just invest money in other operators but it took a long time to get there. And it all started with selling your time for money, but doing it for multiple clients.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And that is like, so now why did you decide to have the gumption to go and do that in the first place? Was there a big why there?
Yeah, my story was, I guess, kind of funny in that uh, I really wanted to do human resources for tech startups. So I took this test called an SPHR, which stands for Senior Professional in Human Resources. Very few people know about it. It's not that it's not that special,
Okay.
but it's kind of like a CPA for HR is a way to. And the pass rate's kind of rough. It's like less than half of people pass, and you've got to be in the industry for so long to take the test. So I I kind of decided to be an entrepreneur, studied for this test, passed the test, with the whole idea to sell like all the non-recruiting stuff to tech startups. So like I could help design your benefits and your comp plans and everything. And no one wanted to buy that, but they're like, "Hey, could you recruit for us?" Yeah, I do have recruiting experience. I could do that. So like my initial thesis was way off in terms of like product market fit, like
Uh-huh.
what I what I wanted to offer and what I wanted people to buy versus what they wanted to buy. But I still had something of value that they wanted to buy, and then we kind of dug deeper in there, and then I would lead with recruiting, and then maybe try to sell some of the other stuff later.
Okay. Okay, cool. So really you sort of grew into the role that you're in right now. You found something that people were looking for and you wanted to offer that. Had you been in a cubicle before that? Like where did you come
Oh
from?
yeah, yeah. Uh, so I started my career in Chicago, in like a real traditional bullpen environment. So
Oh.
staffing agency, and so it was like kind of cubicles, but really tables. You
Oh,
know, you
okay.
just kind of like crammed in. There's like a bunch of tables, and it's kind of like a little boiler room.
Wow.
Like crammed in with tables, phones, computers, and I loved it because you could learn through osmosis,
Yep.
and like hear all these conversations. The people that do agency type work, like staffing agency type work, they're a little more like aggressive, assertive. There's a lot of banter, a lot of like poking fun, stuff like that. So it was really, really lively. So I wouldn't trade that for the world. Like I'm really glad that I got to spend my 20s in these bullpen environments. But then like once you learn it, you just kind of want some quiet to work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So so I don't need that anymore. And and then it was like work from home after that. But I started in the, you know, pseudo cubicle, really more of just like a table and a lot of loud noise in the area.
Wow. So now a lot of people are just afraid to fail and they think that they're going to make some big mistakes and it's going to, ruin everything, right? Especially when they've got their so-called safe job, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not necessarily anymore, but whatever. I mean, still, it is a steady paycheck for whatever it is. But now when you get out into your and you're on your own and you start doing this on your own, there's some things that don't go as planned. And I'm wondering, can you share with me one of those big mistakes that you made along the path and how you recovered from that?
Yeah. So when I first got my like I'd say like more like the second level of entrepreneurship,
Okay.
I was building a Latin America software business.
Okay.
And so our team was in Latin America. Um, the I came out of recruiting, not sales. So I always felt like sales was something somebody else could do,
Mm.
and you could just like hire some superstar, they'd be a rainmaker and bring in all this money. But that didn't go, so it was really more of like a business owner fail, where I hired two pretty expensive salespeople from the industry, and just month after month, like, how come we're not getting any revenue? Isn't that what you
What I hired you for?
yeah, we hired you guys for. And then, had to eventually move on from them. But I think I was just like really intimidated. And I bet a lot of people might identify with this, where they've got the skill with marketing or finance or accounting or back office operations or something, and just not sales, right? Like sales is always
Yep.
what like wild extroverted person would do.
Yep.
And and that's how I thought. But I think I underestimated um my like the grace people would give me because I was the founder of the business. So I could say the wrong things, not run a real proper sales call or discovery or ask the right questions, but because I was the founder, people wanted to talk to me, and they could see, I cared about their business and them as a client, and that really mattered. So I'd say the biggest mistake was just trying to like buy my way into revenue,
Mm.
and um not recognizing like it's you just have to do it. Like everyone's got to sell, no matter how introverted or reserved you might be, or how your superpower might be something else. Um, Being a founder, it's something that you should do. You should do the sales, but also recognize that it's compounding. Like it's another skill set that you get to have for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That is really accessible, I think, for everybody. And I mean, I think that's true that sales, I mean, this comes up all the time, but like uh, I think people have a negative view of what they think sales is
Hmm.
based on probably some negative experiences where they got sold, right? Something that they
Yeah.
didn't actually want. But really, what sales is supposed to be, I think what you just said, I mean, you're really just showing somebody how you can fix a problem, aren't you?
Right. Yeah.
And isn't that what you do? Don't you fix problems? That's what
That's
entrepreneurship is.
that's exactly it. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're selling, IT support or marketing services, you're trying to make somebody else's business better.
Yeah, yeah, you're trying to help them. And like you just said, I mean, I think that as a founder or even as a salesman, I mean, I would argue that the best salesman, and I'm not talking about maybe some salesmen might be able to rack up some big sales, but then you get some returns and some buyer's remorse that comes back from that if you don't do it right. But if you do
Yeah,
it right, then you're really good at caring, at asking good questions and at showing people that you're a real person that they want to do business with. Right. And like you said, I mean, you're the founder of the company. People are like, okay, well, what's this thing all about? I want to know how you can fix my problem. And if you're real about that, and I mean, you can say some things that aren't by the book, but but as long as that person on the other line goes, okay, well, yeah, it seems like he's being honest. That's what they
yeah.
want, right?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, people are, I think, tired. I overestimated like the extroversion.
Mm,
And I'm really not that extroverted as a person. Much more reserved. So I think I like overvalued that people just want to do business with extroverted people, but
yeah,
really they just want their problem solved. It doesn't
yeah.
matter how you go about doing it. So, I encourage people that are listening that are maybe like a little more reserved, or they've never thought they've sold anything before. You've been selling your whole life, you're just doing it in your own way.
Yep. I, and I think also probably if you don't know you're selling, then it probably just means that you really believe in what you're selling. Because
Yeah, yeah,
right? Because it's really, really connected. You're just going like, I've got a good idea and I really think it's a good idea. You're technically selling that. But I
right.
think, like I said, I mean, I think a lot of people have this negative view of what sales is, and they think that sales is actually convincing somebody of something. And it's not necessarily that. It's showing them that you can help them with that problem. It's more of a communication style, right?
Right, right, totally, totally.
Yeah. So I mean, I wish that sales was like a critical part of like school of the regular curriculum because people really should be learning that because even if you don't ever decide to be in a business, you're still sitting in meetings at work and if you don't know how to express your opinions, then like how do you even do that? Like how do you be successful in a regular job if you can't sell your ideas or you can't even convince them that you want to raise, right? I mean, all that is sales, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
So it's definitely worthwhile learning, I think, right?
Mhm. That's
So
exactly right.
so let's talk a little bit about the cash flow aspect of business. And I mean, that's another thing that trips people up. I think that number one, people think they need to spend a certain amount of money on certain things. You know, it's a business expense, it's a write-off or whatever, anything like that. But then it ends up that kind of like runs away. Like, how do you, especially when you're first getting started, make sure that you're going to make the money back that you're investing? And is it normal for you to run at a loss for a little while?
Yeah, good question. I think a services business is different from a tech business or a product business.
Okay.
I think tech and product, you're you're funding losses to get to market quickly. But if you're running the services business, you should really be making money pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
Um, otherwise, I think there's something kind of missing there. But I will say that I've made errors on both sides, where I've overinvested or I've underinvested. Um, this is probably a little bit more like further down the road, but sometimes it's good for people to see, what could be next. Um, right out of COVID, I was in like the biggest bull market I think I've ever seen in the recruiting world. Um, but I was fearful because, I just had like all my revenue taken away
Mm,
during COVID, right? So I was very fearful as the market started to pick up fast, like fast.
yeah.
And, I had like somebody on my team who was helping me with delivery. And, I wouldn't even like spring for her own Gmail, like business Gmail address, like $7 a month. I'm like,
Yeah.
just running so tight. And I look back like, what was I thinking, but and then when the market, was at the top of the bubble, nobody knows
When you're at
nobody
the
knows.
top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So um I hired a whole bunch of expensive people, and had no idea, right? So I waited way too long to invest, and I was way too tight when I should have been. But wisdom comes from experience of making the wrong decisions, so I'll hopefully know next time.
Oh man, that is a great story. Happened to me too. It is funny how that happens. Like when things are going rough, like you're just really scared to put any money into it. And then when it starts to go up, then you start to put too much money into it. And yeah, that does cause some major problems because now you're kind of like it's like what did I say before? It takes like 3 months to build momentum, and then it also takes 3 months for that momentum to disappear as well. So it's like the things you do today are going to be affecting you in 3 months' time, whether that's
Yeah.
good decisions or bad decisions. So there's always
Mhm.
this lag, and that's very difficult to get a hold of as a business owner. Like, so what did you learn from that experience so that you're ready for that next time?
Yeah, I mean, I think um, I'd much rather be lean than overdoing it, you
Okay.
know. So I think I'd much rather be lean, but you want to build an optionality and flexibility in all your spend, right? So um, like I don't think I'd ever sign a year-long contract with anything anymore,
Really?
and even like software, like um, unless I have like no other choice, like I'd rather pay more and even have it like quarterly renewal than get stuck in like a really long-term contract. Because I saw that happen, where like, oh, let's go crazy. Let's really try to grow this thing.
Hmm.
And then you get crushed for a little while. You're like, we're barely even using this software that we spent all this money on.
Yeah.
So anyway, I would much rather be conservative and then just find ways to maybe you spend more in the middle of it, like the equivalent of buying your groceries at 7-Eleven, for a month, right? As you get settled.
Yeah.
Sure, it's a little more expensive. It's not sustainable for the long run,
Yeah.
but it's a finite period. Just, overspend because the revenue is going to make up for it.
Okay.
But the alternative of the long term getting locked in, it's something that I would avoid going forward.
Right on. Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. And sometimes I think I'm making a stupid move because I'm paying, 20% more by paying for things monthly.
Mhm.
But I hear what you're saying because especially with software, new tools come out all the time. What if there's a better tool that pops up and you're on a year-long contract, I mean, it allows you to pivot a little bit more too to a better tool if you're doing things monthly. Sure, you're not saving the money, but I mean, there are very few tools probably in your stack that you absolutely are never going to switch away from. Now, there are a few, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
totally.
and I mean, that goes right into the next topic. So let's talk a little bit about the tools. So what are the tools that are really useful in your business?
Yeah, QuickBooks I've used forever.
Mm,
QuickBooks Online, use it across all the different companies that I work with, invest in. Um, and then I like Monday.com a lot.
me too.
I use it so much that I even use it to run my household. You
Me
know,
too.
like uh, like like
Yeah.
uploading docs, like my kids' birth certificates are uploaded on Monday.com, and I can like grab it whenever I need it, or
Awesome.
or like we just took a spring break trip, and all the flight bookings and everything was in there.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so we use it all the time, and of course, all across the businesses. So that's probably my one go-to tool.
Okay. Do you pay yearly or monthly?
What's funny is I don't think I had a choice with Monday. I think, but by then I've been like, because I use it for my household too. I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, like there's no getting out of this thing.
That's so awesome. Yeah, no, there's a couple tools that you can pay by year, but most of them, yeah. No, I also use Monday too, and I love it. I love it, and I've gotten a few other of my clients that have gotten on Monday as well. It's such a great tool. It's kind of like
Yeah,
a combination of like, something like Trello and maybe something like Asana, and then you've got a
yeah.
CRM in there too. Like I like it. Hey, I wonder if there's a referral thing. We should probably be affiliates, right?
I think so.
Right on. So now let's talk a little bit about learning. So, I mean, as you mentioned earlier, I mean, you didn't come from an entrepreneurial family, but you somehow had to learn all this stuff. Like, did you have mentors or did you, take part in coaching program? What did you do?
Yeah, I've been really ever since I could, I've been paying for peer groups.
Oh,
Um, but I've been in multiple different ones, and I think that's important too. So I've been in something called Vistage, which is like I think it's like the oldest, largest CEO peer group. Um, so they meet in person, once a month, and there's usually some executive coaching. There's speakers that come once a month, like
hmm.
all about finance for your business or optimizing marketing for your business. They'll come in, and it's good. It's good stuff. Um, and then I did business school at UCLA, and there's like a UCLA CEO founder peer group. I was a member of that. And then I've been a member of more of like a marketing, or it's probably more like agency owner. So a lot of people are marketing agency owners, but I happen to run a recruiting agency.
Mm,
Um, but anyway, the one thing I think I've recognized though is it's really important to learn from others. You're rarely going through a problem that nobody else has gone through. It gives you a better, when people bring their problems, you're like, it gives you kind of this fun business school environment of, you can try to understand their situation. Does it apply to me? Give your advice. But I'll caution, at least for me, I didn't want to be with the same group for the rest of my life,
okay.
because it gets a little stale. You kind of already know what somebody's advice is going to be for you if you've been with them in the same group for 5 years. So that might be the one thing that I would advise, just based on my own personal experiences. I try to do a group for a couple years, give value, get value, and then find another group of peers. I think otherwise you start to stagnate and get stale.
I like that. I like that. And so you find the peer situation is better than hiring like an actual coach that just works with you one-on-one?
I do. Generally in those peer groups, there is a facilitator that's probably a little bit more senior, so they
Okay.
can help you get that anyway. But I think with the peer group, you get 7 or 8 other people that are kind of in a similar boat,
Mm.
to different companies, and that founder, the founder problems are unique, because you can't really tell your team about what you're going through.
Uh,
So you need to be able to talk to people that are like vested, but not all the way vested, and there's no politics when they give you advice, they're not trying to protect your, ego or anything. They're just like, dude, that was a really dumb decision you made, but let me give you some advice on how to get out of it.
Oh, that's great. I agree. Uh, I think when like that's a really good way to frame it. With peers, like you say, they're going to be more frank, more upfront
Yeah,
about how they react to you. Whereas if you hire a coach, well, there's some power dynamics going on there, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so and then also you also get the benefit of being the mentor and the mentee, I imagine, at
Yes,
certain times, which gives you just a better feel. You learn through teaching as well, right?
that's exactly right. Yeah, good call out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Right on. So now it's time for your guest solo. So tell me what's exciting in your business right now.
Yeah, I think we're in a good spot where like the wind is in our sails. Um, and I've been there a few times, where you just happen to sell the right thing at the right time.
Mm,
And I've also been in the opposite boat too, where you sold the wrong thing at the wrong time. But there's a lot of fatigue right now with labor from Asia. The time zone just becomes grueling. The hierarchy, the culture, whatever, if you've ever been on a customer service call with someone in India or the Philippines, you just know,
yeah.
and it doesn't always come out, the way you're hoping. So all the wind is in the sails right now for Latin America.
Hmm.
It's same time zone. There's cost savings, creative thinkers, good problem solvers. It's all right there. So the 2020s to me are the decade for Latin America, and I'm really excited to be an ambassador for the region.
Wow. So tell me a little bit more about what you do then. Like how does that work?
Yeah, so I've been in the space now for 11 years, and we connect all this great talent in Latin America. So Mexico has been a big, manufacturing supply chain factory for the world, especially for America.
Yeah.
But Mexico and all these other countries provide great, like white collar talent. So software developers, marketing, accounting, bookkeepers, call center, operations, that all exists in spades down there.
Huh.
And there's no sacrificing time zone. If you want to get on a call with somebody, the sun's up at the same time that you're up as, they're up, and it's really easy to work that way.
Hmm. You know what's funny is that I've never had anybody on the podcast that has talked about Latin America as a
Yeah,
place for outsourcing, which seems bizarre to me. You hear
yeah.
about the Philippines a lot, and India and China, as you mentioned already. You don't really hear a whole lot about Latin America, but that certainly does make a lot more sense that they would be, a lot closer to us, right? So I wonder why it's hasn't really been on the radar for most outsourcers.
Yeah, I think India has existed, since the dot-com boom.
Mm,
The Philippines were really good at the call center, back office, virtual assistant world.
yeah,
And then China's kind of been the factory for the world, forever.
yeah.
That's always been the big three. And price has been, I think, in the forefront of people's minds. Because you'll never beat Asia on price. Asia's always going to win there.
Right.
I think what people are recognizing, especially CFOs, are there is a cost that they didn't factor in way back, a few decades ago. And there's a cost of customer frustration and churn,
Yeah.
cost of stuff just like breaking. There's a cost of rework. An India software team is going to be a lot cheaper than a team in Argentina or Brazil. But if the software has to be continually reworked. The cost per labor is much cheaper. But if it takes you an extra 4 months to get it done, you got to add those extra 4 months in your overall costs and amortize it. So finally, all that stuff is being factored into it. And
Right.
in Latin America is more cost effective overall, even if the labor is marginally more expensive than Asia.
Interesting. Very interesting. So so is the education system different and better in
Uh, I think education is, pretty abundant nowadays, with especially with everything online.
Mhm.
But I will say it's probably more cultural, that I think really connects because, in the States, we're a lot more comfortable with horizontal organizations, um, sharing feedback upwards, I don't agree with this. Here's why.
Yep.
Here's a different idea. Um, you'll hardly ever see that in Asia. There's lots of layers
Oh.
and hierarchy, but Latin America is much more organized towards horizontal work culture. There's a lot of passion explaining, what they agree with or what they don't agree with, and here's why. And obviously, when you make a decision, everyone will rally around that. But
Mm.
until that decision's made, they'll share their opinion. And I think that's really important, when you want to have a collaborative work team.
I agree. That's amazing. So then are is there a lot of competition in your area as well for
Yeah, I think we're positioned pretty nicely in that we're a US company with Latin America infrastructure and team members. And I was an expat in Argentina. My partner was an expat in Mexico. So we've got a lot of firsthand experience with this. And I think it's hard to match those three things. We can do US contracts, there's no crazy international wires, but we've got long-term credibility and big candidate databases from our team in Latin America, and we can talk about it firsthand, and then handle all the hardware and all the complexities. Very few companies can do all of that, but some do one particular thing pretty well.
Okay. So then what kind of company or what kind of person would get the most out of working with you then?
Yeah, I think small businesses that are maybe just a little bit further along, like I really encourage if you're going to hire, and maybe this will even cost me a little bit of money here, but I think it's important that founders and small business owners try DIY hiring, do it yourself hiring
Yeah.
for the first couple. You kind of understand, more about your own process, what you're looking for, how to manage people, all that. And then when you're ready to scale a little bit, that's where, we come in, because,
Okay.
um, you're going to get probably better efficiencies, access to a much larger labor pool, shortlisted candidates. Don't worry about compliance or anything like that.
Okay, that's awesome. So yeah, you're kind of like the next level. And I think you're right because I mean, uh, when you're first hiring, you're going to find out first of all that you probably don't have the standard operating procedures that you should,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And you're like, trying to figure out how to actually even do that. And so that might be wasted time if you're going to a bigger company, right? So when you
right.
figure all that stuff out and then you
Yeah,
make a couple mistakes, then it might be the right time to go and work with you, right?
yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. Once they're ready to, scale a little bit or they're a little bit more buttoned up on their process,
Yeah.
we're ready. Yeah.
So what's the process of working with you then? Like, what do they do? Do they go to your website? Do they fill out forms? Do they
Yeah.
talk to you? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the important thing is, although it's like contract labor, meaning just like you and I talked about, like the monthly,
Hmm.
month to month. That's the same thing that we do. Um, so once they're ready to do that, we don't charge until we've not only found you the candidate that you like and you want to hire, but they've started to work, and then we
Oh,
and then we just send invoices for every hour that they bill, right? And you'll just get that on a monthly basis. So it's really low risk. and we do a lot of intro calls, explain how Latin America works. There's a lot of people I would call nearshore curious or kind of interested in what's going on in Latin America, but they want to learn more.
Yeah,
That's where we do a lot of educational calls. So yeah, just go to the website, plugg.tech and fill out a contact us form.
that's awesome. Okay, so there really isn't a whole lot of risk. I mean, if you're at the point where you're ready to hire and you've got your procedures in place, then it's just a quick call, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Just to get things started.
that's right. That's right.
Right on. Well, that's awesome. Okay, so before we go, one more question is probably going to be the hardest one, and we're going to talk a little bit about music. So, who is your favorite rock star or band?
I guess I'm a little older school. I could do U2 any day.
Mm, right on. Have you ever seen them in concert?
Yeah, I saw them in San Francisco once. It was a great show.
Yeah, I've seen them at least once now that I think about it. Yeah, what a great show. They had such a great stage setup too. Like
Yeah,
it kind of
it
went
was,
right out in the audience and stuff. It was so
it was
cool.
awesome. It was great. It was really fun.
Right on. Do you play any music at all?
I dabbled with guitar before I had kids, and like every once in a while, but it's been a while since I really picked it up now.
Oh, yes. Well, every once in a while, it's nice to pick it up and strum a few chords, right?
That's exactly right. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for rocking out with me today, Brian. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. To the listeners, make sure you go to workathomerockstar.com for more information, and we'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.